These jewelry armoires are so much fun to redo. I picked this one up over at Goodwill and I just love it. It's like a great size and they're a lot of fun. Although this one is not vintage, it was a Walmart product and the label said made in 2011. Yeah, it's still a really fun redo. So I did all of my prep work off camera, my cleaning, my sanding, and then my cleaning again. I just scuff sanded with a 80 grit sandpaper. I am using this DIY paint called Monet's Garden and a zebra brush. If you have never used DIY paint before, the color, once you apply it, is a lot darker than when it starts to dry. When it's going to dry, it's going to lighten up a lot, but that color will change once you apply your sealer and darken up quite a bit. DIY paint is a clay based and it is highly pigmented. It is really great for creating more of like a textured type feel when you are painting your pieces. Going back to how the color changes once it starts to dry, here's an example right here. You can see it's a lot darker when it is wet and it lightens quite a bit when it starts to dry. I did a poll over on my Crafty Create Facebook page for what type of decoupage paper to use on this piece. I had two choices, these moths and then a decoupage paper with hummingbirds all over it. And overwhelmingly everyone chose these moths. For the edges, I'm taking a wet paintbrush and just running it across that white edge and then just tearing it. This way I have something that is easier to blend into and it's not such a harsh edge where you can see it really well under the paint. Anyways, hopefully that makes sense. And this paper is a made by Marley Magic Decoupage paper. They are beautiful. Her designs are just gorgeous. And this gorgeous paper came from my friend Dar over at DIYs by Dar. I'm using this Aliens Decoupage medium for this project. This stuff is super duper thick. So I do water it down quite a bit so that way it makes it easier to apply. So I'm going to work in small sections after I kind of figure out where I want this paper, and I'm going to apply it one section at a time, just one drawer by one. I'm trying to apply it nice and evenly and not to have it too thick or too thin, so that way I don't get like globs underneath the paper that will cause the paper to tear. Although this made by Marley paper is super thick and it is a lot easier to kind of move and reposition if needed. Although every time you do pull it off of that decoupage medium and reposition it just like any other decoupage paper, you are going to weaken the paper a bit, and yeah, it could cause tears and rips the more you do it. And then I'm taking this balled up piece of saran wrap and just rubbing out wrinkles and pressing it down onto the decoupage medium so that it sticks better. Decoupaging can be tough, and I have yet to perfect any method in keeping out 100% of the wrinkles. There's always at least a few wrinkles, but I am totally okay with that. I'm not a perfectionist, and I actually don't mind the wrinkles myself. When your glue is completely dry, and I'm serious, like it's really important to wait for this to be completely dry. You will most definitely tear your paper if not. I'm taking an X-Acto blade and I am just kind of trimming any of the excess around the drawers and cutting through the paper where the drawers are separated, so that way I can open and close them, obviously. And yeah, I'm just taking my time and being very careful. So once that is finished, I'm just going to take my A-Leans and an artist brush, and I'm just going to seal down any of the edges that still feel like they're lifted up a little bit. After I trimmed them, they won't be, they will need to be glued back down around the edges of the tops or the bottoms of the drawers. So I'm just taking my A-Leans and my artist brush and gluing all of those pieces down. I definitely don't want them snagging or anything like that when I open and close the drawers. I didn't like the random space at the bottom of the drawer, on the bottom and the top drawer. So I had another sheet of this decoupage paper, and I just kind of cut out different pieces of it, like this little moth, and I decoupaged that, and I just kind of pieced everything in to kind of fill in and cover up that bottom drawer. Yeah, so it just didn't look like the decoupage paper just stopped right there. So for the drawer sides, I'm just taking a piece of sandpaper and I'm doing a scuff sand on there so that way my paint adheres better. And I'm just going to paint them with this Waverly brand paint in the color called Mineral. It kind of pulls out some of the colors I thought from that paper. And then I'm going to do some stenciling on it, and I did have some little scrap pieces of paper left over that I do decoupage on that as well. I added some brown antiquing wax onto the drawers around the edges to kind of hide and conceal some of the white that was showing from cutting into the decoupage paper, and just kind of give it a little bit more of an aged and old worn look, which I just feel like I love, especially with this paper with all the brown tones in it. And then our new little baby Milo had to come and check everything out, so I had to snap a couple of pictures of this cutie. He is so funny. We just got him about a month ago. He was a drop off at a local farm in a town nearby. He's so sweet. Anyways, I just thought I'd share a little bit of his cuteness with y'all. I wanted to add some more depth into this green, so I'm using some Petal Pusher by DIY paint, and I'm blending that in. I'm using the Petal Pusher and the Monet's Garden and the same brush, and just with the spray bottle, I'm misting my surface and I'm just kind of blending them together. I love blending colors together. I feel like it gives more of an interest and it makes the finish look more complicated. Now it's time to seal everything, and I'm using a clear matte polyacrylic, and as you can see, it darkens up. If you have never used DIY paint before, one thing to note is that it is reconstituted with water, so you may get some issues with your paint pulling off when you do apply this, so do be mindful of that. You may need to do some touch-ups. I'm just reusing the hardware that came with it. I thought it really looked good and it fit with the whole aesthetic of the piece. Ugh, Michigan winters, you guys, the sun is like non-existent this time of year. Hopefully my lighting is okay and you can see everything that I'm doing all right in this video. Doing a little dry brushing up here with a color called Petal Pusher from DIY Paint as well. I'm adding some stencils on the sides where the doors open, and I'm using a dark brown wax and a Miss Lillian's No Wax chalk paint in the color called Lichen Lichen. I believe that's how you say it. So I'm just kind of tapping in some of this green, the Miss Lillian's No Wax chalk paint, and then I'm going to tap in some of that brown antiquing wax. When I do my stencils, I really like to do a combination of colors. I feel like it adds a lot more interest to the stencil. And I'm making sure I tap straight up and down and not push that paint underneath the stencil and create bleed through. I did some more dry brushing on my detailed areas with that Lichen Lichen No Wax Miss Lillian's chalk paint. I add some of this black metallic glaze onto the edges around the top, the bottom, and also on the decorative areas and the little appliques. Here's just some sped up version of me decorating the sides of the drawers with a stencil and some of that scrap paper that I had left over. More stenciling on the outsides of the doors, and I'm doing the exact same way as I did on the inside with the same two colors, the Miss Lillian's No Wax chalk paint in Lichen Lichen and the brown antiquing wax. And I don't need to seal over top of either two of these again because the wax is a sealer itself and the Miss Lillian's No Wax chalk paint has a built-in top coat. So let's have a quick look at the before we check out the final review. And let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Like I said before, these jewelry armoires are a lot of fun. They can really just let your creativeness and your imagination go wild. You can add so many different elements, and they're small, so it's a great inside project to do when it's freezing cold outside. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I hope I have inspired you today. I hope you consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. See you on the next one, you guys. Bye.